I am NetMoverSitan. Welcome to the Machine Abnormality Law section. Will this result in a post-apocalyptic... Oh wait, never mind. Remember what was said about the crude inventions in the backstreets? Either they were early prototypes of devices that resulted in a company becoming one of the wings of the world, or they were just stolen from some people there, if not outright bought off them. The first of these is the singing machine. Those with too much fortitude or too little temperance have a risk of this machine wanting to feast on them, and then bewitch one of them to attack another human and feed them into it. A meat grinder with a mind of its own, one that desires the results of music. It would appear that the definition of music to this is a combination of screams of agony of its victims, along with the sound of blood, flesh, and bone being ground up inside it. It just needs a man wearing a mask made out of human skin with a chainsaw, and we can safely say that this was made in Texas. Although it also wants that music played to attract employees that display specific behaviors. There was also a pale horse mentioned. This pale horse was possibly Alrune, although it's just vaguely horse-shaped, so it's unlikely that this pale horse was the same as Alrune. Anyway, let's get back on topic. The music was possibly fueled by the meat devoured, as very little remains after the grinding. It doesn't have to be human, although the music lasts longer with human meat than with animal meat. Those that attempt to take others to the singing machine by physical force have enlarged pupils, like they're stoned out of their ears. A lack of concentration and cognitive ability is displayed. And they don't try to listen to other music. If that's the case, then there's a good bet they're bewitched by it. Too much fortitude, too little temperance, or a bad work result will lower the quip-off counter, and that agent will be killed. And then a random employee will be possessed. Next we have Schadenfreude. Yeah, that's probably the pronunciation butchered again. I still struggle with English. Anyway, that means taking pleasure in the suffering of others. Sadomasochism at worst. If it's taken to its most extreme. Although in this case it's a machine that is more "Stop looking at me!" than "Notice me, senpai." Although that implies emotion, where this is motivated by rationality and logic. Looking at this one while working will result in the quip-off counter lowering, and a risk of breaching. Although it will become more vulnerable in the mobile if not being looked at when breached. Its eyes blink, but never closes. is. Employees staring at it only provokes it, while facing it with something that blocks direct line of sight, or if the agent was blind, they're safe. When it's just partially obscured, it started to be aggressive. Yeah, looking at it too long is asking for a beating. A beating that involves very sharp and very spinny objects. For those that believe that things can only get better, where the have you been? That's delusional in our world. Never mind a world as grim-dark as the one that the Lobotomy Corporation is set in. Have you not been paying attention? You can't be that blissfully ignorant of this nightmare. Those within this world are certainly not. Next, we have an appliance that you're better off not having. It's the Little Helper. This cute-looking and simple cleaning robot is a bit different from the Roombas that cats have been known to ride. The red eyes might make it look evil, but it honestly doesn't know the concept. It's manufactured by XX Incorporated. Good job there wasn't another X in that, otherwise people might get the wrong idea. And besides, that's probably taken. It can clean, cook, and serve as light security, and keep your home safe in tip-top condition. A bad mood equals dirty environment, which results in its cleaning, and alerting the owners by saying, "Contamination detected. Commence cleaning." Why did I just sound like a bad copy of Arnold Schwarzenegger? Anyway, what's the problem with this? Well, the problem is that the tools for cooking and cleaning have been accidentally switched. So when cleaning, it becomes a health hazard, where it spins around, brutally killing anyone unlucky enough to be, well, in the residence at the time. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be around when it's on cooking mode. It'd more likely poison the owner or set the place on fire. Yeah, this is based on cooking mode being the one where it cleans. As a lot of cleaning products, you really shouldn't be consuming any of that, as it's not safe for, well, anyway, bad results can make it breach, and make it do the spinny blade dance of death. Next, it's an abnormality that's a little less active with what it does. You must be happy. This worn-out machinery was used for operations, specifically by selectively destroying nerve endings with machine precision and safety. In theory, if the screen says yes when stopped, the employees improved. When it says no, the employees made worse. This was likely used in a mental institution, where those that answered yes to the question, "Do you love your city?" were deemed cured, while those who answered "No" weren't discharged, which suggested that this was done to those who didn't conform to the ideals of the city, otherwise known as wrongthink. Thank you once again, George Orwell, for introducing us to your nightmare. Also, the effect is temporary, and if the improvement is too great, the employee dies. The same applies to those that use it at least 5 times. Yeah, there are limits to how many times a body can be improved before it's too much for them to handle. Also, how many times they can be improved due to working on certain abnormalities in certain ways. I mean, there is a good reason why this machinery is in the facility. Next we have We Can Change Anything. Brought to you by XX Incorporated, makers of the Lil Helper. The second installment of the Home Robot series. What does this do? Well, it was meant to change a troublemaking child into one that was better. It can also change the body of those unsatisfied with them into one that is up to their standards. It can even fill the user up with energy, without having to fill themselves with stimulants. What do you need to do? Just step in a white Iron Maiden, go inside, and press the close button. What's the worst that could happen? The line of the truly ignorant that is spoken not long before something terrible and potentially painful and/or embarrassing happens. This machine generates power by attacking the occupant, where the physical damage caused will increase in rapidity over time until the employee is killed. Par for the course, XX Incorporated. Is there anything good about this abnormality? Which is guaranteed death for those using it? Well, it's immune to grip-off meltdowns, which is small comfort for those who get torn apart by it. Pinhead would probably use this during his time off torturing those that summoned him and his crew with that French puzzle box. You know what? If this happened in reality, they'd at least be taken to court over this. If a bank was this negligent, they'd likely lose their license. The same applies to doctors. Now, I hesitate to say that this is making a dog's dinner, but it's not even close. A dog would avoid it as if it was the worst thing that could be put in front of them. I'd shudder to think what the complaints department is like. Probably something involving a load of fixers paying a visit to the ones making the complaints, and then shooting them. As that's how much of a mess the world of Lobotomy Corporation is. Now, I know I keep going on about it, but it's worth mentioning more than once. I don't want to downplay how bad things are. I mean, if you don't get it by now after hearing about Next, it's something that can be quite useful in a desperate situation. It's the backwards clock. For those who want to turn back time, this is the tool Abnormalities use. The name of the company that made this clock has been lost. Although considering that it uses vacuum tubes, or valves depending on where you're from, it was probably around at least in the year 1904. It was created to allow the user to rewind the time wasted to change the user's bad future or redeem a mistake. It needs an agent that is level 3 or higher to wind the spring 4 times to turn the lights on, and then activate to go back to the point in time that the user desires. It can only be activated once a day, so its use must be decided wisely, as it will require the sacrifice of a level 5 employee for it to work. As any lower, as in those who would handle it poorly, it'll work, although it'll cause everyone in the facility to panic. Yeah. Training an employee to level 5, that takes a lot of time and effort to invest in. There are some abnormalities that this won't affect, such as most LF types. It won't affect the Arbiter, the Red Mist, and it won't affect the Black Swan. So take that into consideration when this is used, and when abnormalities are chosen. Finally, we have Do Not Touch. With this red button, I'd do, or rather, not do what it says, because best case scenario, it will drive everyone insane. Worst case scenario, it will kill everyone. Actually, it should be the other way round, as the latter gets it over with. The next one will be one with a more paranormal flavor to it. Until next time. Hail the rabbits!